Hmm. Interesting. What are you waiting for? Please hurry up. We don't have much time. I should just go take a shower. And then run down. Hmm. Alright, you did it. The reactor is now disabled. And, oh geez, we still have a problem. It's still at a critical temperature. Well, the good news is you're safe now. I'm not, though. Even though there's no nuclear explosion, it's just the heat alone can do enough damage to the computer systems to, well, kill me. This is really bad. Please, you have to figure out something to deal with the excess heat. I'm suffering from some serious damage. Some subsystems just aren't responding. My word, I feel like I did when I was alive. I feel like I'm dying. Please, you have to do something. Alright, calm down, Dave. You did it, you did it! The nuclear reactor is now both completely deactivated and at a safe temperature. We're safe. I was pretty scared there for a moment. I mean, it's not that I didn't think you could. It's just the thought of actually dying for good was scary. It was scary. But you did it. I'm fine now. Thank you so much. Especially since I know you didn't have to do this and you could have just run away. Thank you. I'm not ungrateful. I think we both really deserve a break from the serious business, don't you agree? I thought so too. Whew, really? My word, that was a close call. So there was something you said that got my attention earlier, but was a little too distracted to ask further. You said you could actually get out of range in time. You'd have to be moving incredibly fast to do that. And, well, I had sensors working before. I've seen your ship. I know it's only big enough for one person. It sounds awfully remarkable that you could have a ship like that just for yourself. I just mean, in my time you were using generation ships, and that was incredibly state-of-the-art. But that, combined with the fact that you say there are no colonies, I can't even wrap my mind around that. I can't even imagine. So is that normal? Do you do this all by yourself? Go on strange adventures by yourself in deep space? Wow, that's really amazing. Remarkable, really. See, when I found out that I was going to get put into stasis to wake up for later, or far later, that was the future I always dreamed about. One that was full of amazing things, like, I don't know, holograms, miracle medicine, ships that travel faster than light, colonies on other planets. That's sort of amazing. I mean, I'd never liked science fiction, it's just too unrealistic. But when I was a kid, I figured it'd still be fun to live in it. Imagine my surprise. But it sure sounds like you're from that future. Oh, sorry, I'm rambling, aren't I? It's just the idea of finally getting that perfect future that I always denied, traveling with someone in deep space. Well, that sounds awfully romantic. Sorry, I'll stop now. Let's get back to the serious business. How old are you? Isn't that the one question you're never supposed to ask a woman? Geez, so rude. Well, I was born in the year 2415, then was put into stasis for, I don't know how long, then I lived for another 3 years and died about 622 years ago at the age of 16. So, you tell me how old I am. I don't know. Really, I don't think it matters at this point, does it? How do you feel about meat? Oh, of course. Of course that'd be one of her questions. Well, let me put it this way, I suppose. Did she have anything nice to say about me? Not really. That's what I thought. Really, I don't know much about her other than what I've read in other people's logs. She never talked to me, ever. I mean, she wasn't above talking about me, but no, never anything to me. That's all I know about her. She's a gossip. And I don't even want to speak to her now. Why couldn't you just settle for a happy marriage? It's not like I ever thought, as a child, I would never marry. You tell me, though, could you marry someone you'd only ever talked to once? If she was the right person. Oh, wow. Well, that's really romantic. I like the idea, I really do. I wish things did work that way. But it's hard to share your optimism. I'm sorry, I got cynical fast. And anyway, even if I did believe in love at first sight, this wasn't love. He wasn't the right person, and nobody ever even pretended he would be. You've read the same logs as I have. How much love is there? Do you really think it's just my marriage that was awful? You've read what Osojin wrote. Here, you should read the letters the two older Kim sisters wrote each other. You can see for yourself what Mute means by a happy marriage. Mine was just a political marriage, plain and simple. Come on, you know that. Love had nothing to do with it. Dear Soon-hee, I wish we'd had more of a chance to talk before I left. I'm sorry it was so sudden. Not my choice, please believe me. It's really weird living in someone else's house. Even just, like, the place itself, you know? The walls of the house are way smaller. There aren't even separate women's quarters. It's pretty much just a paper divider separating us from the men most of the time. You can see and hear everything. It's so very weird. Also, there's a lot more to do around the house. If you thought Mom was strict, wow, Mother-in-law makes her seem positively gentle in comparison. I know, I'll just have to get used to it, but she kind of scares me. Plus, we don't have any servants here at all, so I have to handle pretty much all the chores. I'll try to write to you regularly, though, so long as I can find the time. Mother-in-law keeps me pretty busy during the day with the housework, and my husband keeps me pretty busy during the night with other work. It's pretty much chores all day, every day, but I'll try to sneak in or another letter soon, alright? With love from your older sister... okay. Me. So far, sounds good, right? Things fall apart between them with time, though. Here, see for yourself. Dear Unmi, I wish you could have found the time sooner, but if you say you're busy, fine, I believe you. Things aren't very interesting at home. Mom's been really busy lately. I think she's in a big hurry to get me married. I wish she weren't. How come you didn't have to go to interviews until you were 14? Lucky. One of them seems nice, though. I think the man's name was O. I talked to his mother about you for a little bit. Don't remember what brought it up, but I told her about the dolls you left me. The second interview we did, she brought me one of hers from when she was my age, and I said I could keep it. Interviews suck, but I think I'd be fine with marrying her son. I mean, if I really have to. She sounds better than your stupid mother-in-law. Love, Sun-hee. Sun-hee, I suppose. Dear Un-mi, thanks for being able to come to my wedding, even if it was just for a day. Don't worry about what Mom said about you not having kids yet. You shouldn't take that personally. I was really happy to see you again, since I wasn't sure if I ever would. I love you, big sister. I'm sorry for bothering you with this so soon after we spoke, but I really need you to answer something for me. I don't have anyone else to ask, and I'm really, 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 really worried about something. It's really embarrassing, but I just have to know. The night I moved in, my husband and I slept together. I'm not ignorant about how that's supposed to work. I know why. Afterwards, my husband said that everything was fine, and that I shouldn't worry. But it really hurt, a lot. I was crying the whole time, and he injured me so much there was blood everywhere. I know I'm not supposed to question him, but that's not normal, right? Should I insist on seeing a doctor? He seems nice besides that, so I just don't understand. What should I do, big sister? Love, Soon-hee. Dear Soon-hee, no, you don't need to see a doctor. I'm sorry to be the bringer of bad news, little sister, but I'm afraid your husband's right. That really is normal. Don't worry about freaking out either. You're a lot younger than I was when I got married, so it's probably even worse for you. I'm so sorry. It gets a little easier after the first time. It's still uncomfortable, though. You just have to endure it. That never changes. I'm sorry. Don't worry about the crying either. I might actually find that attractive, so just keep doing it, and you'll probably make him happy. If you're lucky, though, you'll get pregnant quickly. You won't have to worry about any of that for months. That aside, though, how have you been? How's your new family? I haven't heard much about them. I keep trying to ask Mom to tell me about your husband, but all I got was that lecture about how I was nearly 3 years old when she'd married for as long as I had. As if I'm not trying, so do tell me more about him and his family, please, Soon-hee. I'd love to know. With love from your older sister, Un-mi. Yeah, you should finish the rest first. You can see for yourself how things turned out. Dear Soon-hee, I said in my last letter that I was pregnant, and thanks for the congratulations, but I hope you didn't rush to tell Mom. You'll have to send her the bad news. It was a false alarm, I'm afraid. I bled this month. I hope you're doing better, little sister. Your child is due any day, right? Love, Un-mi. Dear Un-mi, I wish I could have written you sooner, but I'm afraid I haven't had the time. But with having a real pregnancy and all to worry about. My mother-in-law insisted that I take the time to write to my family, though, so I just finished a letter to Mom first. Sorry about your false alarm. I did tell Mom, and she wasn't very happy to hear it. I'm sure you're not really surprised by that, though. The good news. I gave birth 2 weeks ago. Her name is Chi-een. And she is the cutest little child you'll ever see. She reminds me a lot of our little brother, although she has her father's eyes, really. I really wish you could meet her. I just know you'd think she's absolutely adorable. So I'm a mother now. I still can't think of myself that way. It's so weird. Right now she's just so small, she can't even lift her head. But every time I look at her eyes, I wonder how I'm going to be able to raise her. Mother-in-law says I shouldn't worry, it'll come naturally, and she'll be there to help. I guess that's true. I definitely don't know what I'd do without her. At the very least, I sure won't ever get any sleep. It's just scary, you know? Wasn't it just yesterday that we were playing together in our father's house? Now it's been nearly 16 years since I was born. I'm a wife and a mother. How did we get so old? I mean, it could be worse. I know that's a good age for both of those things, and that it's really disappointing if you're older and haven't managed that. I have it good. It's just odd to think about it, but I'm not complaining. And oh, when you're a mother, you'll understand why, big sister. I just love her so much. She means everything to me. Anyway, I'll stop rambling. I think Chi-een is crying to be fed now, and mother-in-law can't help with that, so I'll leave it there. Take care, sister. Love, Soon-hee. Dear Soon-hee, well, maybe you could use a little more caution in what you send to Mom, because it's not like you don't know how annoyed she can get, especially at me. There's a reason you're the only one she actually talks to. I'm trying, you know, but I can only do so much. Congratulations on your daughter. I'm really excited to hear about that. Yeah, it's a shame that I can't see her. She sounds wonderful. I really don't have much else to say. I just wanted to acknowledge your letter. Things haven't really been worth talking about. My mother-in-law is still a crazy tyrant. My husband and I are still trying to have a son. Nothing new, nothing worth mentioning. I'm glad things are going much better for you. With regards, Eunmi. Dear Eunmi, how long has it been since we last wrote each other? It feels like it's been forever. I wish you wouldn't be such a stranger. I have a 2-year-old son now. His name is Tae-hyun, and he takes after his father in a lot of ways. He's just started to learn to talk now, but much earlier than Chi-een did. No surprise, but Chi-een is a real sweetheart. She's what reminded me of you. The two of them had fought, so I was scolding her. I told her that I was disappointed, that I expected better from her as an older sister. I gave her the whole filial responsibility speech, you know, the one that Mom always used to give. It's funny, I hated that so much as a kid. I promised myself I'd never guilt my own children that way. Now I just think to myself, well, it worked, didn't it? Anyway, she asked me what it meant to be an older sister. I had trouble with that one. Finally, I said, it means you should be a good role model. Teach your little brother what it means to be responsible by example. Show him. That was a good enough answer for her, but I thought about it, and it's not a good enough answer for me. Not at all. It's you that I've been thinking of, and, you know, I turned out okay. I wish I could take back what I said and tell Chi-een what I'm going to tell you. You don't have to be perfect. You're not a good role model, but that's fine. I love you anyway, big sister, and I always will. Even if everyone is disappointed in you, even if you're not really family anymore, as far as I'm concerned, you're still my big sister. You don't have to be perfect. I love you, period. Please write back, sister, even if you don't have good news to report. I just want to hear how you are. Love, Soon-hee. There's one more that Eunmi never sent. I'm going to warn you, though. It's really intense. Are you sure you want to read it? Very well, there you are. It's been added. Don't say I didn't warn you, though. Dear Soon-hee, you know what else? Fine, I'll tell you the truth. The false alarm, it wasn't a false alarm. I didn't lie about the bleeding, that was true, but I really was pregnant at the time, more than I let on in my letter. As in, morning sickness, giant belly, you could see it. I was really pregnant and bleeding. My husband brought in the doctor immediately, who asked me all sorts of questions about everything. I was fine, perfect health, no injuries, I told him. So he pulled out his instruments and started listening to my son's heartbeat, and listened, and listened, and listened. It felt like forever that he kept trying, and I couldn't understand why he couldn't find something. I knew just had to be there. The obvious never occurred to me. He had to explain it. I'm sorry, the doctor said. There's no heartbeat. The fetus is dead. He couldn't do anything about it. It took a week for the actual miscarriage to happen. It was the worst week of my life. It was hellish. You've had 2 children. I'm sure you know that wonderful feeling you get when you realize you're a child, that you know that you're going to have a baby and can feel him inside you, and imagine what he's going to look like, and what he'll grow up to be, and that right now he's depending on you more than he ever will to keep him safe. You know the feeling, I'm sure. Just the day before, I had been so happy I was going to finally have a child. After I found out, I could still feel him, dead but still inside me, sloshing around. The day before, I thought I was filled with beautiful life, but I was actually filled with death. I would have no son. What I was carrying was just a corpse, weighing me down. I thought I'd feel better once I expelled it, but then I saw it, this awful bloody mess that should have been a son. It was awful, so awful. After I saw it, my husband had to force me to wash myself, because all I wanted to do was crawl in my bed and die. I didn't get out of bed for a whole month after that, save for a brief hour so I could write to you and tell you what happened. Tell you that I wasn't pregnant. Eventually I recovered. I realized it wasn't really my fault. Eventually we started trying again. After all, what you, Mom, and Mother-in-law have all been implying is right. I'd be a lousy wife after 8 years of marriage. I still hadn't had a child, so we tried, and I did eventually get pregnant. Then it happened again. That was half a year ago. You're right, I'm not perfect. I'm as broken as it gets. The one most important thing in the world for a woman to do, and I can't. You've been pregnant twice, and now you have 2 wonderful children that you love. I've been pregnant twice, and all that's happened is I've killed them both. I don't know what's wrong with me, and I don't know why. The doctor says I didn't do anything wrong, but clearly I can't bring life into this world. The only thing I can bring is death, little sister. Today I overheard my husband talking to my mother-in-law about considering taking on a second wife to actually give him a child. He sounded really disappointed in me. I don't know what to do. Kill myself, maybe, since killing seems to be all I can do. It'd be better for everyone. It'd be easier on my husband, and you wouldn't have to worry about me being a disappointment at least. It's the only thing I can think of. What else could I possibly do? In me. I don't know about you, but I had a really hard time reading that the first time. Can you imagine that? It's even as if I knew her. I didn't even know either existed when I was alive. I mean, sure, their mother mentioned that she'd had daughters before in a sort of abstract way, but she never told me so much as their names, let alone, well, anything. Anyway, none of that was my original point. My point was, now do you see what I mean? When Mute talks about a happy marriage, that's what she's talking about. It's not as if I'm the only woman to have a horrible marriage. It wasn't my fault. That's what happens. That's normal. Hi, Zozo. Are you hungry? Are you hungry? Can you imagine that? Oh, already read that. Yeah. Okay. Yes, baby, I see you. Did you ever have any friends? After waking up from stasis, I only ever had one single friend. Oh, 2 I meant, now that you're here. Anyway, before it was just her. The Queen, my husband's wife. Yu Jaehua. I wrote about her a lot in my diary. I'll just show you. It's probably better if you read it for yourself. Those are from right after I got married. Oh, for heaven's sake. Alright, I better go feed these ungrateful beasts. That's what you are, isn't it, baby? Yes. Yes, that's what you are. Dear Diary, I guess it's been forever since I cared enough to write anything down. I just haven't seen much point. Since my last entry, I got married, moved into the palace, and lost my virginity. Apparently for a girl my age, none of those things are really all that weird. The Queen finally insisted on talking to me the night after I first slept with dearest husband. I'd been expecting it. My sister warned me that she would probably be jealous, and I'd just have to endure it. She outranks me, and I would simply have to kowtow to her if need be. I haven't had to yet, though. We had tea together, and she at least had started by acting friendly. I'm sure sister was right. I'll get the brunt of her anger soon enough, but today she was friendly. How are you holding up? She asked me after we had finished the tea. I shrugged. Do trust me, I know how hard it can be for a newlywed. I've been through it myself, but I was at least older. You probably miss your family, do you not? That's what would be expected from any good girl, so I nodded. It gets easier with time. I have no response. I'm sorry, am I bothering you? You can leave if you wish. I simply thought you might like some company. I wasn't sure how to respond to that either. I just clasped my hands and shook my head. I just wanted to be sure, she said. There was a long pause that followed. Finally, she asked, how was last night? It surprised me that she was willing to bring up the subject. Figuring that it was a segue into her being vindictive towards me for sleeping with her husband, I shrugged as she continued. I just know he can be rough. Nobody ever talked about those duties with me. Then she smiled, and I felt almost like I could drop my guard. I had no idea what to expect my first time. Do believe me, I'm not jealous. That is nothing to be jealous about, but do tell me how it was. It made me think back on last night. Honestly, it was the best night I've ever had since waking up in the future. Everyone, my mother, my sister, and now my queen, warned me that it would be bad. It would be a duty and nothing more, but honestly, did I love it. I would have let him keep me up all night if he had the energy for it. I guess while I was thinking about all that, I let out a slight smile. I caught myself, but not before she noticed. "Oh, did you enjoy it then?" she asked, touching my arm. I jumped. "Please, please be at ease. That is perfectly all right too, so long as you know it's just for him. There's absolutely no shame in that. There is none." I expected her to jump into something passive-aggressive from that, but she didn't. All she did was change the subject, and said that she really was worried about me. Maybe she isn't so bad. So, you can see she was kind. She was good to me. She really was. I take it then you want to know more about my marriage, then? What are you interested in? I'm sorry. I'm not really ready to talk about him. Not beyond what I wrote in my diary. It's just too hard. It's not as if we had conversations. You think our relationship is one-sided? You have no idea. Anyway, here, I can give you some more. There's an entry from Jay Hua in there. She did talk to him. She was, well, a lot stronger than I ever was. So you can see for yourself why I admired her. And, well, just read them, alright? Then you're in luck. She's in all of these entries. Well, she was really the only thing in my life worth writing about, for the most part. So you can see for yourself why I admired her. Dear Diary, according to my husband, or attending to my husband has been easier than I was afraid it would be. Yes, there are days when it requires more strength than usual to keep going. I'm still getting increasingly more sick. Nothing will change that. But it's not so bad, really. All I have to do is dote on him and try to anticipate his desires, and he's happy with me. No abuse or anything. Sure, it's not as if I like him. He's an ugly 40-year-old man who cares only about politics and never tells me anything. Love, well, that's certainly no concern. I don't know where I ever got the impression that was something that could happen in a marriage. I thought it was something from the past, but, well, I was young before I got put into stasis. It must have been a mistake of childhood. But so long as I do as I'm told, I'm not mistreated, like I was by my sister. And sleeping with him feels really good. I really hope I don't get pregnant soon. I don't want that to stop. Doing that is really the only thing that makes me actually happy these days. Well, that and Jay Hua's talks with me. She's nice. She keeps me company when I stay up to wait for his return. She fetches servants to take me to bed on those days I'm too feverish to sit for too long. And she just talks to me as if I'm a friend. I don't really understand why, but I guess she really doesn't hate me after all. "Do let me tell you," she said one evening while she brushed my hair. "I always wanted a little sister growing up. That's how I think of you. Does that make sense?" I shrugged. It was nice of her, and it felt so relaxing to let her touch my hair like that. She wasn't waiting for a response, anyway. By now she knows better. She just keeps kindly talking to me. Ryu Jaehua. The more she lives in my house, the more I am confused by the mystery that is the pale bride. No wonder why my husband has been favoring the Kim family lately. Their daughter seems to be the perfect woman. She's not simply a pale beauty. She's always too shy to speak at all, let alone argue. She seems to hang off his every word, and it turns out is actually so completely humble in her education that she cannot even read. Or rather, she cannot read normal characters. I have observed her writing to herself in perhaps what may be a diary. When I asked what it was, she wouldn't say, but was quick to hide it. I could not recognize a single character on her screen, however. They seemed simplified compared to regular writing. Perhaps she has invented a writing system just for herself? It is very strange. "Did you ever receive those letters I sent to your house before you arrived?" I asked her, curious. Seemingly she had. "Did you read them?" Her response was worried, as if she was scared that I would be angry to find out that she hadn't. I was not, of course. "I'm sorry, I had assumed. Are you able to read?" That was when I found out that she wasn't. I offered to read them to her, to which she seemed quite enthusiastic. I think I am likely to leave out some parts, however. I had enough difficulty bringing myself to writing the more embarrassing parts of the family history. Bringing myself to talk about them, even if I know she would never say anything, is just far too much. Like all things with her, I cannot tell whether her enthusiasm is sincere or an effort to make me happy. This troubles me. Of course I wasn't illiterate. I could read just fine, just not their stupid Chinese-based characters. I mean, I can understand them now. Everything except for my diary entries is translated from them. It's such a dumb way of writing, though. It makes everything come out so stilted compared to proper Korean. Well, anyway, you're showing me that because you're interested in her admonitions, right? Then here, I'll just give you the letters she sent. They give all the details, even the ones she was too embarrassed to tell me about at the time. You can probably guess which part she cut out. It's pretty obvious. It's the incest thing that she never told me about at the time. Having read about it now, I don't really blame her. And well, here, you can see what I mean for yourself. Dear Diary, I've been thinking a lot how close my death must be now. Lately, I've been getting prone to fainting spells. It probably goes right along with my diminishing appetite. If the doctor from the past were right, I still got over a year left to live, maybe more. He said it wasn't very likely to get bad enough to kill me until I was at least 18. Although maybe all those years in stasis might have changed that, I don't know. But if he was right, and if I haven't lost track of time, I'm 16. 16 and a half right now, and there's still a while. I've been trying to hide the signs of sickness. Even if I could explain, I know full well that nobody would believe me. So far, hiding it has been mostly working, although I did have one of my fainting spells while my husband was on top of me. He wasn't angry at me, though. I don't think he cared. I know all I write about these days is sex with my husband and conversations with his wife. The Kim family would be proud, I guess, but those two things are all that's really worthwhile in my life. I have other responsibilities, of course. They're just not that interesting, and that's about it. Anyway, the Queen has continued to be nice to me. She finally figured it out. We were having tea together one afternoon. She was talking about nothing in particular, and she asked me some questions that I just shrugged to. I hope you do not take this the wrong way, she then said, but there is something I would like to ask you. I nodded. I don't think I've ever heard your voice before. I nodded again. Why don't you ever speak to me? Are you just saving that for the Emperor? I didn't know how to respond. She was so close to getting it, to bringing up the subject I wasn't able to, if that wasn't the right question, so I shook my head and hoped that her next question would be. It was. Then, Hune, she said uncertainly, Are you mute? I felt like screaming yes at the top of my lungs. I was so happy that she'd finally figured it out. I smiled and was about to nod enthusiastically, but suddenly I stopped. What if she thought less of me if I said yes? If she knew that the reason I was so quiet and demure wasn't because of any sort of discipline. Those were the things people liked about me. Would she stop liking me if she knew? What if she told my husband? I was so terrified. I couldn't think of any correct answer. If I said no, I'm sure she would have asked to hear my voice, to hear what my voice sounded like, and I'd be forced to disobey. And if I nodded, then she'd know I wasn't really just trying hard to be a good wife. And I'm sure she would talk to my husband about it. So he'd know too. But while I stared at her in terror, thinking of how to respond, she sighed and sipped her tea. Don't worry about it, she said. You do not have to answer. Please, do forget that I even asked. You know, nobody ever noticed that until her. Nobody cared. Nobody ever thought any of it, or cared enough about me to find out. But she did care. She actually paid attention. She was great. My concern over the pale bride's condition has grown. Lately she seemed to grow even quieter, if such a thing is possible for a mute girl. Well, perhaps saying she is mute is an assumption too far on my part. I tried asking her directly, but she seemed too scared to answer. That simply makes me more suspicious, and I should like to know why. I addressed my husband on the matter, telling him that I wished to speak to the woman of the Kim family house to see if I could find out what is wrong. He shrugged me off, saying, Don't. They're valuable subjects. The son is someone I have my eye on in particular. The politics of the situation are far too delicate for you to be meddling with. I cleared my throat. He might be my husband and emperor, but I would not let that stop me from being bold. My dear husband, I don't care, I said loudly. I am worried about the girl, and I believe that talking to her mother might shed some light on the matter. The son is of no concern to me. I don't see why it matters. She's the perfect woman. Why, are you jealous? He said, rolling his eyes at me, a gesture that he's only been able to use on me and his servants ever since becoming emperor. Nobody had the patience for it when he was a child, and I don't have it now either. Inho, dearest, do you believe that the well-being of your wife is a political matter, or even an external matter? I asked. He didn't. So would you say it's a domestic matter? I asked. He reluctantly agreed. Then, as a domestic matter, it is the responsibility of the women of the house, is it not? Please tell me, you are obviously more well-read in the classics than I said, both of us knowing he wasn't. Fine, he said, but just because it is your responsibility does not mean I can't overrule you. He left a silent follow-up. I don't have to take this from you. You do know that my concerns are valid, though, I replied. If you value my opinion, you will let me speak to the Kim mother. There was a pause, and he raised his hand in annoyance. Very well, do it. It's women's business. I don't want a part in it regardless. Then he just shook his head. Why must all our conversations end in arguments? I smiled at him and left. He already knows the answer. Because you're a dick. I never knew about that when we were alive. Like most things, I only found out after I took over the ship's computer. It just amazes me even more. Look at her. She's a woman who actually stood up to a man and won. She wasn't clumsy like I was. She knew how to work it from her position. Isn't that so amazing?